All right, I don't know if this will work in 10 minutes, but we're going to try it. I'm going to read the section that I mentioned about in my from my new book about the last video that I made about how an OnlyFans live stream and a church live stream are the same thing. So here we go. You can see me like looking at the screen to read. Now that we know why this is and isn't being talked about, or at the very least is some way possible, let's see how this works in real life, in an objective way, or at least in a way that could be seen as objective. So we'll need some characters for this chapter. So let's start with Jim. Jim is a modern Christian, as most people would be able to see. He grew up in a culturally Christian home, but that culture is in decline. And though he attends a church, he was an adult long before he actually got baptized. He doesn't think the first one counted because he was 10 years old and it happened at a camp, not his church, which used to be a smaller Baptist church on the north side of town and is now a larger non-denominational church on the south side of town. Jim is single, on Christian Mingle, and in the church's burgeoning singles ministry. Slightly balding, but styles his hair well, a trendy dresser, and a foodie when the time calls for it. Jim is everyone's friend. He's skinny fat, not chubby, not overweight. And I say this not to shame him. He's fictional after all. But the image of Jim needs to be clear in your head to make this all work. Because for him, he's all that we have in this scene. Everything else is experienced through him. He's not a gym bro, not a weekend warrior triathlete. He's normal, friendly, and even as friendly as you are likely to ever know, which is great, bar none. Jim wakes up on a Sunday morning, almost bright and early. He's groggy from the night of beer and wings with his small group at a sports bar where they meet and pray for each other and watch the game. He slides out of bed, looks at the closet before rubbing his eyes and deciding the sweatpants are formal enough for what's about to happen. He gets up, relieves himself in the bathroom, and walks down the hall to the kitchen where he puts on a pot of coffee and heads to his computer desk. It's almost 10 a.m. Not like he'll be late for the event or anything. Weeks of ritual and habit have formed deep trenches of what's about to happen on Sunday mornings for him. The shades are drawn, the house is still dimly lit and quiet, aside from the slow gurgle of the coffee percolating in the background with the faint but noticeable hum of the lawnmower in the distance. He opens up his computer, grabs a mug of coffee, one he knows by experience will likely get cold by the time he's done, but it's part of the habit and ritual of the day. He sits in his home office chair, tries to get comfy, and thankful for the waistband of his sweatpants makes it easier than a suit or jeans would be. He blinks away the last few bits of sleep from his eyes as the live stream pops up. A piece of familiar loading music plays, like he always liked the beat the producers chose for the bumper at the beginning of the stream. It's playful, almost giddy, and fits the background well. It's the little things that give him the impression of care that he feels. He knows it's likely accidental in the background of his mind, but a forward-facing brain that engages now. Lights and sound, movement and color. The scene is set so predictably, but in high definition it nearly fades into the background like the music did. Like he's been here before and been here forever, when in actuality the website in question has only been around for a few years. Production value sure does pay off. A small smile creeps onto his lips that most would likely take for a smirk, but he's not with most people. He's not with anyone really, and not at least in person. What the internet has done for him really is a marvel of technology. There really isn't any limits to who he sees online now, or when or how many times. It's not like it used to be. Countless hours spent on DVDs and CDs and even magazines. He records or downloads his favorites for free now and has a hard drive dedicated to the storage, to be precise. It's not until the chat goes live that he really does more than observe and smile, but the smile gets wider as he sees who's signing in. They're regulars for the most part, men and women like him in lifestyle and living arrangements that make up the most of the chat's participants. He even sees some of them in person, spoken to a few online as well, but some are just pictures, avatars of nice-looking people from across the globe or across town who just log in just like he does to catch the actual live stream, not just watch the newest recording of days or weeks later, or even hours, if Jim's being honest with himself. And then she finally greets the chat, and Jim feels seen. He leaves her a message with a string of almost childish emojis and does so. So does everyone else. He loves it, revels in it, as the culmination of where the chat is going and the music and the lighting and the people on screen and off screen all come together at once. With Jim's schedule, he would never get a chance to see people like this, to see anyone who actually wants to see in person, really. Not until his next shift change of the work weekend. It's always kind of hard, even if he does get Saturday nights off. But then, But until then, these quiet and private and perfectly coordinated moments online give him the emotion and fulfillment a guy like him needs. Time spent here passes both quickly and seems to last forever. Jim, for a moment, is simply caught up in the experience. So much so that everything fades away into the background of his life. The lawnmower is no longer heard in the distance. The coffee maker's gurgling is silent. He's immersed in the presence of it all. Until his work alarm goes off. He finishes up, quickly grabs his coffee, now cold from 45 minutes or so spent in front of the screen, hops into a quick shower to clean up, changes, grabs a second cup of coffee on the way out the door, and a muffin from the counter from the last pack from Costco. He feels a bit off, as much as it was just him in the room when the chat was full and the screen was focused on what it was, but then again, he appreciated, though a lot of people wouldn't. People who would turn their noses up at the act and say that it's wrong. Maybe it was wrong, but it felt right, mainly because it felt real, and wasn't that the point of this kind of thing in the first place, to feel something. He heads to work in a happy haze of endorphins and memories from last night and bits and pieces of every Sunday morning spent like this. Now, did I just describe a guy watching his favorite X-rated OnlyFans girl or a live stream church service? Or more importantly, what does it mean if I did and could do both at the same time? I want you to go back and listen to that if you need another time. But yeah, it works both ways for a reason. It works both ways because they run on the same strip. Like Jim could be the kind of guy who downloads, sermons from famous preachers. He could have, books and magazines and CDs from John MacArthur and any number of, old media versions of theology and preaching and all that kind of stuff, Bible teaching. Jim could be one of those guys, or he could be a guy who collects corn. It works both ways. Why? Because they're the same thing. They're the same kind of thing. We want to think that they're two separate things that are using a platform, but no, the platform itself is the message of both those things. And what I talked about in the last video, where there's this concept of, corn as being the porneia and graphos, the writings, or the whoremonger's writings. That can be applied to all medias as basically sinners' writings, or hamartia graphos, if you want to go back to the Greek. The sin part always informs the graphos part, the writings part, the content creation. So there is not online media made by righteous people. Jesus could have had a righteous TikTok account, but no one on TikTok is righteous. Not me, not you, not anyone. Not the most churchiest church that ever churched is doing, entirely righteous stuff. It all boils down to media made by sinners at a sense of degree. And then we have to arbitrarily pick where that degree is fine or not. And that's why it's important to understand that that's the actual operating system. That's how we work. There is no such thing as adult media or not. It's all the writings of sinners online. And if it's not treated like that, then you get into these conundrums where it's where do we draw the line of good content? When are people allowed to do that? Yeah, there is no drawing the line. It's all bad content technically, because everyone is born a sinner. Saved by grace, sure, but everyone is still born a sinner, and the implications of that sin bleed into the technology, whether we like it or not. So when we look at corn or adult media and we assess how it's working, we have to realize that that's how everything works. Mr. Beast is just that version for that kind of niche. It's that kink, if you will, and the OnlyFans is that kink, and it all kind of breaks down to that because it's all the same kind of thing, and it all works that way. And until you come to reckon with that and see what you're dealing, then yeah, you can get into these situations where there is confusion between them. There is this kind of drift towards one as opposed to the other because there's not an overarching understanding of what the medium actually is doing and what it actually facilitates. At the end of the day, we want to treat the content as if it's the people making the content, when really it's a very different kind of thing. It's more akin to, making an idol or a representation or an image bearer of yourself that you're going to do. And I think that can be done in righteous ways, where you can, make something that, stands in place of you standing there doing the thing. You can write laws down on a billboard so that everyone can see the laws. We see this actually in the scriptures, that it's something they should do, that the Israelites were, told to do. But there are very few ways to put your person online in a vulnerable or expository or like exhibitionist kind of way without that causing problems. And that's because like it is that thing. Like all of it is, adult media at the end of the day, just to varying degrees, and we have to wrestle with what those degrees are.